Hello, everyone, and welcome to the primary election forum of Peabody's Light Commissioner candidates. On behalf of the Peabody Area Chamber of Commerce, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be here today. Thank you to today's moderator, Dave Olson, editor with the Salem News and board member of the Peabody Area Chamber. Thank you also to today's forum sponsors, the City of Peabody, the Salem News, and Peabody TV, who is working all the magic and recording behind the scenes today. Without further ado, I will introduce our Light Commissioner candidates. We have Joel Brenner, Mary Beth Malia, Raymond Melvin. Incumbent Thomas Paris was not able to be here with us today as he did have a personal situation come up here last minute. So he says hello to all. Tracy Valletti, and incumbent Robert Wheatley. And I will now hand it over to Dave to review the format and to get us started. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Beth. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to start with having you all spend 90 seconds to kind of introduce yourself to the voters, and we'll go in, and after that, we'll get right to the questions. Everybody will have 90 seconds to answer the same question, and then we'll move on. So we will start with Joel Brenner. Joel, you have 90 seconds.
Great. Well, thank you, David. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Peabody Area Chamber, for organizing this event. I think this is really exciting. Interesting way to have a forum, right? During COVID times and everything else to sit like this, but that's okay. Allow me to introduce myself, Joel Brenner, longtime Peabody resident, longtime community involvement, activism, lots of things that I've done in my 33 years here living in Peabody. I'm running for Light Plant Commissioner for a host of reasons, not just one. I've been attending Light Plant meetings for 2 years, 2.5 years now, and it's been really exciting and interesting to me. I come from General Electric, where I was in the oil and gas business, energy industry, and it was kind of a natural for me to go and attend some of those meetings and learn more about what the Light Plant does. I think for a lot of folks, people come home at night, they flip the light switch and the lights come on, that's all they think about. You know what, and that's good. That's terrific stuff. But I wanted to be a little bit more involved. So I've decided to run for a number of reasons. One is, like, there's no single cause or reason. I'd be running regardless of any other issues. I thought the time was right, so I decided to jump in. But you should also know a little bit about how I operate, right? And one of the important things is I'm a listener. I listen first. I try to make informed decisions based upon the data that comes at me. I believe in building upon the great work of the Peabody Municipal Light Plant. They've done a lot of great things. I want to continue that path. But really, the most important thing isn't so much what I think as it is about what the ratepayers of Peabody think. I think that's a really critical issue. And, you know, in my door knocking and being out in the community and talking to folks, it's really one of the most important issues for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Beth.
All right. I have been a lifelong resident of Peabody, had 4 kids and brought them up here. I just think that we should have a woman. I just feel it's the time for women to come forward, and I feel that the Light Plant needs the board needs a woman, ideas and thoughts. And I didn't have any real issues with anything because Light Plant is awesome. And the rates are awesome. I just think that we need more communication, transparency with what's going on. And you know, I want to bridge the gap between going green and using what we have now. And I would just like to make fair and balanced decisions. And again, keeping the public upfront with everything.
Thank you. Ray Melvin.
Hello to all, and thank you for hosting this event. I'm a lifelong Peabody resident. I have 2 children, daughter Ashley, son Raymond. In my early years as a Peabody resident, I served 4 years as Peabody West Little League president, where I led a team of volunteers to construct an impressive ball field at Lieutenant Ross Park. I'm a 40-year electric utility employee at Eversource Energy. Along with that, during my tenure, I worked as a cable splicer, trained overhead lineman, power dispatcher, and trainer. I'm currently working as electrical designer. I'm a 40-year utility member of Local 369, where I served 20 years as a chief steward. In 2017, I partnered RCN with Mayor Betancourt and the city officials to create competition with Comcast. Currently, I reside at 6 Kerwin Road with my fiancee Paula. And lastly, I'm a third-time candidate for Light Commissioner. I think I can make an impact on the city. I have some great ideas going forward as far as green energy goes and modeling our municipal after other municipals in the state in New England.
Thank you. Tracy Valletti.
Everyone, and thank you again for organizing this forum so quickly. And thanks to the viewers who are watching and to my fellow participants. My husband and I have lived in Peabody for 30 years. We've raised our family here. We have 3 children. And I'm a small business owner here in Northeast Care Management. I'm a gerontologist and I've been in healthcare for many years. I care about the community, and as a former library trustee, I wanted to give back to the city then, as I want to give back to the city now. There's 4 reasons why I'm running. The Peabody Peaker plant is a fossil fuel burning plant, and I do want to stop that project. 2, I want to bring green energy solutions to Peabody's energy problems. And 3, as the only person running who has a healthcare background, I've realized the impact that this polluting plant will have on the residents who live in and around Peabody. Those who live near this type of plant have increased respiratory illnesses. And for just like everyone else, I want low rates. I want to keep these low rates. My family and friends live here, but only through thinking ahead are we going to be able to keep the rates low. And I have a lot of ideas about how we can do this and about making Peabody a clean, thinking, healthy city for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Wheatley.
Hello, my name is Bob Wheatley. I've been your light commissioner, since 1997. It's been a long time. I'm the only one here listening to everyone else that has a history in voting for anything here at PMLP. The 20% discount, the football field, a lot of other accomplishments, lighting throughout the city, conversion from to 24 kV to 115 kV. There's more to the light plant than just a 2015A project or someone who's just interested in attending meetings and looking at stuff, and you should be able to attend meetings, no problem there. As far as energy goes and the future of PMLP, it's great. We have a great commission right now. We have no problems. We can all sit down and have coffee together. It's a pleasure being your voice on the commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with our first question. And we will start with Mary Beth. And it's the question that's been on a lot of people's minds. What is your stance on the peaker power plant? Is this a good thing for the city and its residents? And you are on mute. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So on the peaker plant, to me, that's been approved back in 2015. I feel that the plant that we have there now is outdated, and it's a good thing that we're updating it and making it more useful and more green, because they're using a different fuel. And going forward, I'd like to see things that are more going green, green energy. But I feel that the plant is already approved, and we just have to work to make it useful and healthy and safe for the neighbors and everything.
Thank you. Ray Melvin. Oh, you're on mute too.
Unmute.
There we go.
Okay. Yes, the peaker plant, the 55 megawatt generator. Yes, it's definitely a pollutant, and we should be striving to be carbon neutral by 2050. At least that's what our government in Massachusetts is striving for. The plant's already been voted on. It's been pushed through. It can still be stopped. If it's stopped, there's $10 million that's on the table that will probably be paid by the ratepayers. So at this point, you'd have to say, can that plant going forward, when we're carbon neutral, can it be fired by something else like hydrogen? That would be something that I would be interested in looking at as a commissioner going forward. If not, we'd have a stranded asset sitting there. I do believe the other two that are way more pollutants than this new one will be. I know the new technology with these turbines, with these peaker plants are efficient, but they still do, let off carbon gases. My position is I would not like to see it be turned thumbs down completely because we have money invested, but I would like to see, and I would be an advocate to see if that can be fired in another way years down the road so that we can use it.
Thank you. Tracy.
All right. Well, I'm sure that you probably realize that I am strongly opposed to the $85 million peaker plant, and I'm not alone. Health experts, environmental groups, and many residents that I've been talking to are strongly opposed to this. I'm against the plant because it really moves us backwards instead of forward. And the proposed plant is within 2 environmental justice communities. It is located on a river. It is located near a dairy farm. It is within a mile of 7 schools and several daycare centers. Second, the potential risks from the plant really have not been fully realized. They have not gone through an environmental impact study. Our Board of Health has called for additional information about this, an additional study on this because of the potential health risks. So the Peabody's Board of Health, our own medical director, a coalition of 87 Massachusetts healthcare professionals have written to the Baker administration asking for more information about this project, such as like a health impact assessment, because it's going to harm people. And something's wrong that this is going through. I have ideas on how to how we can reduce our energy and on our grid, and ways to keep us moving forward instead of moving backwards.
Thank you. Bob Wheatley. You're on mute, sorry.
I don't know if you can hear me, you're on mute. So I'm just asking, see if something should pop up where it asks you to unmute. Let me see if I can do this.
Am I still on mute?
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. I'll repeat what I just said. I voted for Project 2015A in 2017. We took 2 years before we actually came to a decision on that project. And this particular thing is going to be the most modern generator you would ever want to come to. It's going to have more catalytic converters on it than 100 cars would have. There's not going to be the pollutants that the organizations that are against it have come up with. They came up with people from, I don't know, Hudson and different places, but we don't want what happened in Texas to happen here in Peabody, Mass. I wasn't living in Peabody at the time, but they tell me in 1978 was the big blackout here up here in the New England area, and Peabody was a shining light, the only one that had power during that era. We've always stayed ahead on things, and we always looked at things well. And this project was well studied by the board, plus all the information that we got from Emwick, who has some fantastic projects that are built. I agree that the older fossil burning fuel generators were bad, but the new one that Emwick plans on building on our property is 100% better than any old one in the community today. I attended the meeting.
Okay, we're at 90 seconds, Bob.
Oh, I
Do
attended
you
the
want to
meeting.
finish? You want to
No,
finish
all
your
right,
thought?
go ahead.
All right, thank you. And Joel.
All right, thank you. I don't want to echo too much of what's already been said by Ray and Mary Beth. Fundamentally, yes, I think we still need to build the PICO plan 215A. But what I find more interesting, that I think is a little bit different take, is I actually love what the environmental groups did. You know, we prompted a meeting to happen, prompted a conversation to happen that allowed some communications, and where we've made some adjustments, or excuse me, the commission has made some adjustments to the PICO plan and how it's going to be built and what's going to be involved with it. That is fantastic. So earlier on, when I said, you know, I like to listen first, you know, when I went to the community meeting and listened to everybody, it's like, those are some really good ideas that needed to be brought to the table, and they were, and some of those ideas have been incorporated. I applaud on that. But fundamentally, I do believe we need to build this, and I do believe the impact of not building it is too significant for the ratepayers of Peabody.
Thank you. Okay, our next question. We start with Ray. It's another PICO plant. One of the common threads of complaint throughout this has been a lack of transparency on the part of the Light Commission and MEMWEC. How can the commission be more transparent on these types of projects? Ray.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I feel the commission, and I've been to several meetings as well. I feel the Light Commission meetings can be televised, should be televised, if not at minimum, be uploaded to YouTube. Anybody that has some interest in learning more about that without having to attend the meeting should be able to have access to that information. Could you just ask the question again?
Sure. How can the Light Commission be more transparent in processes like this?
Transparent by Facebook, newsletters, and I think the televised meetings, minutes of the meetings. I think and back around 17, I never heard anything about this PICO plant. That would have definitely caught my interest because that's what I've done for 40 years. And I do know that being carbon neutral is very important, especially in the state of Massachusetts. So I think they should have came forth at that point in time and made an announcement to the city and the ratepayers and citizens and said, hey, look, what do you think of this idea? I'll bet you that MEMWEC probably looked in some other backyards and some of them communities probably said, we don't want it in our backyard. That would be my guess. But we let it come here to Peabody. It's here now. We have money vested in it. I'm not totally opposed to it. Like I said, if we can get that thing to burn even cleaner, maybe burn hydrogen down the road, that's the way to go.
Thank you. Tracy.
Sure. So during the June 22nd public meeting to address the concerns of the PICO plant, the chairman of the Light Board of Commissioners said that this is a board that likes to fly under the radar. And obviously, I can imagine what everybody else thought when they heard that. And it's very evident in their actions over the last 6 years when they're effectively keeping the PICO plant hidden from public view. That's how I feel. You know, they've skipped the EIR, the environmental impact report process, the health impact assessment. These actions create distrust and divide us as a community. These two tools could have engaged the citizens of Peabody to have input on this. You know, and Peabody proudly, deserves an open and transparent PMLP. And I think the people would agree with that. We saw it when the, public pressure was put on the PMLP, and they did decide, they voted, I guess, in April or maybe May to start uploading the minutes. But the minutes for the last 6 years are not uploaded. And that's all encompassing the time period of this project. And I was a library trustee at this time, and I didn't hear anything about it. We also proudly boast of low rates, but I think change is needed if we want to keep rates affordable while ensuring healthy communities. And I know we have the capability of being a leader. I just think we need to come together in order to move forward and unify the city.
Thank you. Robert Wheatley.
What's the question? Transparency?
Yes.
Anyone who wants to know anything at all about any of our meetings certainly can call up and we'll send them the information. There's actually a charge, but we won't even charge. We'll just send it to you. This is a fallacy that some of these people have come up with, that we're not transparent. We are probably more transparent than any board in the city. It's just that people don't even come down to our meetings. If you want to come to our meeting, Tracy, you're more than welcome. Come on down. I know you were a lake commissioner at one time. I've never been to a lake board of trustees for the library meetings. I've never been there. I don't even know when they meet. They have nothing, no knowledge to go down there. So obviously, when this was voted on in 2017, you are the other ones that are against this, who never showed up. No wonder, but it's in your flyer that you get from PMLP every 3 months if you get a light bill. So you can't say we're not transparent. We tell about everything we have to do. As far as not knowing about it, we voted on it to approve it in 2017. It was classified 2015A because that's when NIMWA gave it to us, and it took us 2 years to decide whether or not we want it. But whenever we make a decision like this, we always talk about it, and it's for the good of the residents of Peabody.
Thank you.
Not the people out in Berkshire as they come to your meetings.
Thank you. Okay, Joel.
Thank you again. Interesting comment that Tracy made around the commissioner getting up at that meeting and saying, we fly under the radar. I think if in hindsight, those are probably a very poor choice of words, clearly. I don't think that was the case, but I think the intent was to say, typically the light plant meetings happen, things happen, ratepayers are happy. And so the definition of fly under the radar simply means is the board operates, the light plant operates, people pay low rates, and that's what they're happy about, right? So I think that's kind of the commentary around that. Now to get to the transparency piece, yeah, I think we can do a little bit more. I have seen a change, right? I think most people say you start to see a change, you start to see minutes being published. I see more stuff on Facebook, Twitter, et cetera. I see more things starting to happen. So that's all a result of the conversations that have taken place around the PICO plan. So I applaud a lot of that. I know, I believe the newsletter is called Light Minutes, or Light, it's a newsletter that goes every 3 months. So there's something in place already. And I applaud that, but I think there's a lot more we can be doing to be in front of the community, being more in the Facebook world. And as Bob Wheatley said, you can come to the meetings. Come to the meetings. If you want to know what's going on, come to the meetings. But really, typically people don't, because they're just not interested in attending a meeting for that. They can if they want to, but typically folks don't. They just want to know that the light bill comes in, they love the rates, and they pay their 20% discount to pay early. So I think that's a lot of it. The transparency piece, I think, is a bit misperceived as well. I'm just kind of thinking they do a lot already, but I'm not sure everybody's listening. So thank you.
Thank you. Mary Beth.
Thank you, Mr. Brenner.
Oh, Mary Beth.
Yes. So they post their newsletter, and I always read mine. And I think maybe they should put in there, and I do read mine, but I can't remember if they say meetings or the last of every month and anyone's can come. So maybe just put that every time the newsletter goes out. I think maybe putting it in the newspaper under a calendar event. And again, we are going into Facebook, and I don't even read Facebook. I don't go there. Newspapers are diminishing too. So it is hard to put the communication out there. So the newsletter is probably the best. And even that, most people throw it away because they just want to see their light bill and pay it. And I do believe that the light commissioners are the least, people don't know we have light commissioners, I don't think, unless there's a problem. So going forward, I just hope people will just look at their energy and their lights and the bill and find out what's going on and go to the meetings. And I think it would be good for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question, we start with Tracy. Peabody for years has boasted some of the lowest electric rates in the region. What are some of the main challenges you see in having that trend continue? And you have 90 seconds. Tracy.
So, like I said before, like everybody else, I want affordable, low rates, and also as a business owner. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running. But we do need to be thinking ahead on these issues. Like I said before, healthcare policies and energy policies, these things are important and they are intertwined. We're losing out also on hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants annually because we're not a Peabody, we're not a green community. That would benefit our energy infrastructure greatly. We need to become energy resilient and begin to decrease our dependence on the importance of higher rate fuel contracts. We need to increase our investment in renewables. I'd like to see it within the next 3 years to increase to 30%, and not to be reinvesting in fossil fuel plants that are going to be outdated and potentially a stranded asset. There was a Strategy report that came out recently, I think it was July, and they said that because technology costs are beginning to fall greatly, we're at a tipping point right now where renewables and energy storages are becoming more cost effective than fossil fuels. So I think that's really key. And again, I don't know how much time I have, but I did this chart, and we we're at $0 that we've gotten in grants, where like Salem's gotten almost $1.5 million in grants to benefit their energy infrastructure. 89.6% of the cities and towns of Massachusetts are part of this green consortium. We need to harness these dollars for our own benefit.
Thank you. Bob Wheatley, and we went over a little bit on that last answer, so you have some extra time if you like.
You want to give me that question again, please?
Sure. What are the challenges that you see in having the trend of PBDs having low rates continuing?
Well, like I said, I voted for the 20% discount on our rates, but we have a lot of renewables that we already have. We have windmills up in the Berkshires. We have Emwick that we draw from. We have Seabrook, which would make Tracy very happy that we've looked into Seabrook for the next 10 years. I think they got a license for 25 years. But this conversation seems to be about this fossil plant that wants to go up. There's a lot of misinformation on that. Sure, there's 13 municipalities that are involved with 2015A. So it's not just Peabody that we're talking about. We're talking about other municipalities also. We have 26,000 meters in the city of Peabody, give or take a couple. We have 23,000 residential, 3,000 commercial and industrial. And I think if you talk to any of those people, they're very happy with their rates. I don't see any complaints. When I first got on the board, we used to get a lot of complaints, and then we made some adjustments, and it hasn't been a phone call to my house now in probably a year, maybe 2 years. And that's only because somebody didn't pay their bill.
Thank you. Yep.
I'm up.
Yep, you're off. Time up. Joel.
Take myself off mute. So the question is, what are we doing to keep rates low, and what does that future look like? And Tracy, what you said is excellent, right? Being a green community, yeah, there's money on the table, right? There is absolutely some funds that are available to us to help keep our rates low, to invest in renewables, et cetera. I love all that. But me personally, I know what I do to keep my rates low. I turn off lights in the room. I make sure I've got LED light bulbs anywhere. Thank you, Peabody Municipal Light Plant, for supplying me with all these LED bulbs. I think there's a lot more that we can be doing in the community to help keep the consumption side of it lower, right? If we're using less, it's going to cost less, and that will keep your ultimate bills down. And I'm talking about both at the residential level and at the business level, right? We need to be partnering more with these folks, using funds, maybe grants, whatever, from from Green Acts to help promote that and help businesses and help residents out in keeping their costs lower by reducing their energy consumption in the first place. Thanks.
Thank you. Mary Beth.
So I believe that we keep our rates lower because we're nonprofit and we're customer owned, whereas someone like National Grid and Eversource are stockholder owned. And so we want to make sure we maintain that and we're able to go forward with the nonprofit and customer owned base. And by keeping involved with all the other companies is very important so that we do keep the lower rates. I believe Peabody only uses like 3% of fossil fuels if we go by the grid that I printed, which is a low percentage. For us to even go forward with trying to do solar or windmills, we don't have the room in Peabody. So again, we have to join in with other plants and everything so we can share what energy they're saving and storing. And so that I just want to make sure that we stay as a nonprofit, customer owned, and really look out for us is what we have to do.
Thank you. Ray.
Yes, hi. I'd like to speak to Commissioner Wheatley's comment. As far as rates going, keeping them low in the future, I can see a vision of the city with some solar panel projects. I do work for Eversource, and I am involved in some of the projects at Eversource. We have highways that run through our city. We could put solar panels along the side of them. If anyone's been down the Mass Pike, they've seen them. These are successful. Solar farms in Connecticut, they're successful. We have Brooksby Village, 90 plus acres over in Brooksby Village. Not to say that that's not a possibility, but just think if we had a project like that in our city, we may not even need a peaker plant. That may be obsolete. So I think we need to think green going forward with these projects. I know my company that I have experience with is going to be carbon neutral by the year 2030. And I think that's what we should shoot for. And in addition to that will keep the rates low.
Thank you. Okay, next question. We start with Bob. What about the push toward widespread use of electric vehicles, both personal vehicles and a lot of cities, city vehicles over the next decade? Is there something the light plant should be doing, infrastructure upgrades to help boost electric vehicle use?
Well, we're already discussing EVs. EVs obviously are pushing to be a thing of the future. The problem is that we're finding out, which I don't hear many people talking about, there's 50 cents plus or minus tax per gallon of gas. Do you think the federal government or the state government is going to lose 50 cents per gallon? How are they going to make that up? They're going to put a tax on EVs when they go to plug in? We got to think about all those things. It's not just let's make some EVs and go to town. There's a lot of other things involved in that. But EVs, from all the literature you get and all the books you read, it's the thing of the future. I don't know. I have my doubts about it.
Thank you. Joel.
There you go. Funny, I did a little bit of research on this yesterday. I was guessing what the questions were going to be. There's 30,000 cars in Massachusetts that are electric right now. And that number is going to continue to grow. I think Bob Wheatley brings up a really good point about the government's going to say, hey, wait a second, I was getting tax money before from gasoline. I'm not getting that anymore. It's getting reduced, although really small right now. What does it look like in the future? I think electric cars are coming, right? There's mandates out there that saying, I think by 2035, I think is the date, you can't sell gasoline powered engines anymore in Massachusetts. I think I have that right. And so, I mean, it's coming, whether we, there's nothing to debate about it. It's coming, it's going to happen. I look forward to owning an electric vehicle. I don't own one right now. But more importantly, I think, there's things that we can be doing, again, to help the residents out and the community out by, getting funding for those electric vehicle charges, et cetera. But ultimately, that means electricity, right? That means an increase of electrical demand, and how we support that going forward is a big part of the conversation. So while your question, David, was simply about electric vehicles, I'm looking at it from that supply side as well, saying, hey, wait a second, you're going to plug it in, and that's electricity. Where's it coming from? Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Beth.
Yeah, on electric vehicles, again, in order to charge them, you're gonna, if we go to electric vehicles with the electric company, you have to buy the charging stations. Those are like 35,000 a piece. So again, we're gonna have to offset that on the customer base. And I think everything that we're talking about with energy and going forward, it's not gonna happen overnight. And it's most likely not gonna happen in 10 years. It's again that we have to sit back and really investigate and do our homework before even going forward and purchasing anything like that. But again, we can do it small and try out a small amount, but going full force or anything, we just really need to do our homework on it.
Thank you. Ray.
Yes, electric vehicle charging stations. I'm very familiar with them. I designed them. I've designed many in the Woburn Stoneham area. Most of them are located in parking lots of malls. They're prevalent. They're all over the place. It's coming at us fast and furious because of the emissions that's given off by vehicles. We're not going to be able to stop it. I haven't seen any in Peabody, none, zero. But there is two sides to the coin, as Joel said. You have to think that you need electricity to feed these charging stations. It's kind of a double-edged sword. I think that's why, going green, solar panels, I'm building, I've personally designed garages with solar panels on them with charging stations in them that would supply these chargers. So things like that, which I have an idea for downtown Peabody for a garage with solar panels, and I have a model to do that. Going forward, it's going to happen, and we need to get carbon neutral. There's a lot of issues around it. A lot of things need to be discussed. It's not a real easy question to answer, but yes, we have to do something. We have to solve that problem.
Thank you. Tracy.
Yes, so I fully support electrical vehicles, and like everyone else said, mandates it's coming, whether we want to see it or not. Ray, I totally understand. Yeah, it's coming fast and furious, and we do not want to be left in the dust. And I don't believe we have any electric stations at this point. I think Brooksby has one. I've talked to some Brooksby residents, and they said that they want more. So we need to start thinking about this. And one of the ways that we can even start transitioning is through becoming a green community, because we can actually access this free money to start purchasing electric vehicles. Let's start with the municipal vehicles, and we can do these charging stations through that money. So there are ways of doing this without having it to come out of our own pocketbooks, but through grants. And for energy storage, just to tap on that, is that we don't even have microgrids in the city. If we invested in microgrids and we pushed on that, and then energy storage, the batteries, we would probably not need the speaker plant at this point. So that is, it's a goal that we really need to achieve at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, we start with Joel. Climate change and energy use have been intertwined as issues, at least for the last decade. And increasingly, a lot of the pressure has been put on local governments to solve their local problems around climate change. What specific challenges do you think Peabody faces in the next decade, and how can the commission help address them?
Well, that's a good question. I guess there's probably several things we do. I mean, as a light plant, right, we're generating electricity, we're using electricity, and we have to be thinking about all the environmental concerns that I think we've already spoken about and what that really looks like. At the same time, again, we're going back to look at the consumption side of things and how we use it. Everybody in this call, every individual has a role to play in reducing our carbon footprint. I look at some of the numbers that are out there, and it's crazy what a human being as an individual contributes from a carbon footprint standpoint. And that's really something that I think is not just at the light plant level, but at the individual level. And so I think to answer your question is more along what can we be doing as a light commission to help educate our consumers, our ratepayers, to reduce that carbon footprint so that we know we are trying to get to a carbon neutral standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Beth.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Climate change and energy use have been issues that have been gone hand in hand for the last decade. And increasingly, the federal and state governments are putting the pressure on local governments to be the ones to address local issues. What specific challenges does Peabody face in the next decade, and how can the commission help address them?
That one you have me stumped on, so I have no comment on that at this time.
Okay, that's fine. Ray.
Yeah, I kind of agree with her. That's we've been dancing around this subject already with the other questions. We do need to get together collectively as a board, as a forward-thinking board. I know that's what I will offer up if I'm elected. I have experience in the background. The conversation should also exist with the with the ratepayers in some way, shape, or form as to how we go forward. It's coming. I see it in other communities because that's what I do, and I think Peabody's behind the times, and I think if we all get together collectively, we can solve these problems going forward. I don't think there's any one particular issue that we can talk about right now to make that climate change or to make that change. But I think a good, strong, forward-thinking board going forward that can make them decisions is in the best interest for Peabody.
Thank you. Tracy.
Yeah, so I'd like to help lead PMLP if elected in partnership with the city, of course, to champion environmentally friendly initiatives for residents and companies to reduce strain on the grid and turn us into a green community. I do agree that we are behind the times. I was talking to the light plant manager, and there are no green buildings, municipal buildings in Peabody at all. There's no microgrids, and even the net metering policy that we have, the program that we have, there is only a handful of residents that are even utilizing it. There's so much that we could do. We could just to educate on a basic cost. Simple cost strategies of, your mom told you, turn off the lights when you leave her room, like what Joel was saying. And a lot of people, maybe they just don't do that now. That sentiment probably doesn't echo with a lot of maybe the younger generation. We have a lot more electronics that are plugged in on a daily basis. Think about all the things we have now that are plugged in than we did 25 years ago. But there are other strategies that we could use as well, like demand reduction strategies, such as like peak scheduling, which is basically consists of educating building operators on how to automate their system so that they're running at off-peak times or alternating their cycles so that they don't, so that they can reduce the load on the grid that we have. So there's just so much that we can do. And a lot of this even goes through the grant process that I talked about earlier, is that we can even train these people and certify them on how to do this.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Bob.
I want to say one thing first. We're a power company. We sell electricity. We're a power company. We sell electricity. What more can be said? I don't know what else you could say about this question. As far as environment, we've discussed on the board the tides, whether we can get electricity from the tides, whether we can get electricity by rubbing two rocks together. It doesn't just come that easy. We have to have sources of electricity. We have long-term contracts with different companies throughout the area, up as far up as Canada, that we purchase electricity from. Then we sell it. We're a power company. a power company first. That's all I get to say on that.
Thank you. Okay, our last question, and we start with Mary Beth. And we talked a little bit earlier about sometimes the Lake Commission flying under the radar, but it is an elected board. So other than participating in meetings, can you outline what your approach to constituent service will be?
So I know the commissioners do the 4th grade science fairs. I would continue everything they do because they do a wonderful job. They do the 4th grade science fairs. They hang banners when they need it. They do Kids Festival Day when we have the International Festival. They they even ask their employees to do community outreaches and everything. And again, I would continue to do all of that because it's a wonderful thing.
Thank you. Ray.
Yeah, I believe that as well. Community service. I feel as though that being a board member, being a light commissioner, I feel as though nobody in the city, 90% of people don't even know who light commissioners are. I think we need to be more out there. We need to have more contact with the citizens. I think that we should have an education program where we go around to the young school, the young adults in elementary school, teach them about live wires, things like that. I know we're, being a paid city position, I just feel as though that we need to be out there more. We need to show our face more. We need to let them know, hey, we're light commissioners, and this is what we do, and we're people that want to participate in our city.
Thank you. Tracy.
So I will reiterate what some of the other candidates have said. I would definitely increase engagement of the board, and I would increase transparency. I would like to open up the full process of the HIA and EIR. I'd like to raise our renewables to 30%. I'd like to install microgrids. And I'd like to join the Green Coalition so we can access some of this money, this free money, to improve our energy infrastructure. Those would be my goals.
Thank you. Bob.
Well, first of all, I'd like to give an invitation to Tracy so she'd come up and tell us where all this money is, because I wouldn't mind taking effect of all these grants myself. Grant is the key word. You don't have to pay it back. But we have an HR person that does that. He's searching the papers all the time, the government and everything for money and grants and everything else. The last grant we got was for the lighting that was outside, or the new lighting that we put up throughout the city. And that was not even a full grant. In some cases, we're not even eligible for grants. We're doing very well the way we are. We're nonprofit. We stay under the grid. I like to say that. I hate to say that, but we have the football field. We built that. Nobody even knows about that. We contributed money to that. We contributed an extra $1 million to the taxes, so your taxes wouldn't go up with the city. We did that twice so far this century. I don't know how much more exposure other than the senior concerts and the gifts that we give out and everything else that we do for the city, and we don't get any credit for. We have the redemption day that we pay for. I don't know what more you would want. That's it.
Thank you. And Joel.
Thank you, David. And I want to go back to the core of the question, which I believe was, what would you do to improve constituent services? Correct me if I'm wrong, David, right? Okay. So I want to talk specifically to that, right? The light plant does a lot of things. And as Bob was saying, they don't get enough credit. But they don't get enough credit, I think, probably because we don't advertise enough. We don't talk about it enough, right? If you look around the city right now, there's a gazillion lawn signs up for ward counselors, right? God, there's a lot. That's like could be a whole other conversation. But at the same time, those people have been impacted in some way, shape, form by the ward counselors. We could approach it the same way as a light plant commissioner. right? And I'm not saying to put up a lot sign. I'm saying to put it that, people need to be more aware about what the light plant is doing, right? And it's really important. We need to be attending more events, build upon what the light plant's doing, because as Bob said, they do a ton of great things. Keep going with that. Keep advertising that. Keep getting it more on people's faces, and have open coffees, open forums, whatever it takes to get people talking about it to keep them more informed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our forum. I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to be here. I want to thank the Peabody Area Chamber of Commerce for organizing the debate, and Peabody TV for putting it on. And just remind everybody to vote September 14th, Tuesday, in the preliminary election. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.